On July 8, 2025, President Trump stunned the world with a sweeping announcement. The United States would impose broad new tariffs on nearly all major trading partners, including close allies. From the White House podium, Trump declared the era of free trade over, promising to put American interests first and correct what he called decades of unfair practices. The message was clear: the global economic order was being upended. These tariffs, covering everything from steel to electronics and agriculture, signaled a dramatic shift, one that would touch every corner of the world economy. Trump framed the move as a matter of national security and economic sovereignty, arguing that America had been exploited for too long. The scope was unprecedented, leaving no major trading partner untouched. Allies felt betrayed, rivals challenged, and markets rattled. The world's financial centers reacted instantly, bracing for a new era of confrontation. Was this a negotiating tactic or the start of a global trade war? The stakes were enormous, and the world waited anxiously to see how nations would respond. The cost of this high-stakes gamble was about to become clear. The new tariffs hit hardest where it hurts most. China faces a blanket 60% tariff on all goods, and unprecedented escalation aimed at decoupling the world's two largest economies. The European Union and Japan, longtime allies, are slapped with 30% tariffs, especially targeting cars and industrial parts. Canada and Mexico, America's neighbors, aren't spared 25% on steel and aluminum, 15% on key agricultural products. Even the USMCA, Trump's own trade deal, is no shield. Emerging economies like Brazil, India, and South Korea face 20% tariffs on select exports, from steel to textiles and electronics. The message: no one is exempt from America's new rules. Global supply chains are thrown into chaos, and every nation is forced to reconsider its economic ties to the U.S. The cost of access to the American market has never been higher. The world scrambles to adapt. Trump's case is simple. America has been cheated by a rigged global system, losing factories and jobs to countries that protect their own industries. Tariffs, he argues, are the only way to force fair trade and restore American manufacturing. National security is also at stake. Relying on foreign suppliers for critical goods, he says, is a dangerous vulnerability. Supporters see this as a patriotic stand, a long overdue correction. But critics warn tariffs are a tax on Americans, raising prices and threatening jobs. They argue that higher costs will hit consumers and businesses alike, fueling inflation and slowing growth. Retaliation is inevitable. Other countries will target U.S. exports, from soybeans to airplanes, risking a spiral of escalating trade barriers. Economists warn of lost markets, job cuts, and a fractured global order. Instead of isolating rivals, critics say, America risks isolating itself. The debate is fierce, and the stakes are nothing less than the future of the U.S. economy. Will tariffs revive American industry, or backfire, hurting those they're meant to help? The answer remains deeply contested. Wall Street's reaction was swift and brutal. The Dow plunged over 1,000 points as investors panicked over the threat of a global trade war. Companies with global supply chains saw their stocks hammered, and market volatility soared. Overseas, the backlash was immediate. China condemned the tariffs and announced its own, targeting U.S. agriculture and key exports. The EU and Japan prepared retaliatory lists, hitting iconic American products. Brazil and others vowed to challenge the U.S. at the World Trade Organization and impose their own duties. The global trading system, already fragile, now teetered on the edge. The WTO looked powerless as nations abandoned the old rules. The world split into camps, preparing for a drawn-out economic battle. The question was no longer if a trade war would erupt, but how deep and damaging it would become. The pain and the gains are not evenly spread. The U.S. auto industry, reliant on foreign parts and metals, faces soaring costs and tough choices: raise prices or cut jobs. Midwest farmers, once Trump's base, are hit hard as China and others slam the door on U.S. soybeans and pork. Rural America braces for a wave of uncertainty and potential bankruptcies. Meanwhile, U.S. steel and aluminum producers see a rare boost, hoping for a revival as imports dry up. But critics warn that job gains in protected sectors will be dwarfed by losses elsewhere, especially in industries that depend on cheap materials. Tech giants like Apple face higher costs and supply chain chaos, threatening innovation and consumer prices. The tariffs force a fundamental rethink of how and where America makes its goods. For most Americans, the impact is immediate. Prices rise on everything from electronics to groceries. Tariffs are a tax and consumers foot the bill. Household budgets are squeezed as imported goods become more expensive. The administration promises new manufacturing jobs, but many economists predict layoffs as companies struggle with higher costs and lost export markets. Retaliation abroad threatens U.S. farmers, manufacturers, and even your retirement savings as markets tumble. The ripple effects are everywhere: less variety on store shelves, higher prices, and a climate of economic uncertainty. Some products may vanish altogether while others become luxury items. The trade-off: short-term pain for the hope of long-term gain. For ordinary families, the outcome is far from certain. Economists are split on the future. Most warn of rising inflation, lost jobs, and a global recession if the trade war escalates. They point to history, like the Great Depression-era tariffs, as a warning. A smaller group, aligned with Trump, argue the pain is worth it if it forces fairer trade and brings jobs home. They see tariffs as leverage, a way to force rivals to the table for better deals. The best-case scenario: a negotiated truce with new agreements and some tariffs rolled back. The worst: a global trade war, fractured alliances, and a deep economic slump. The world could split into rival trading blocs with the WTO sidelined. The only certainty is uncertainty. No one knows how this gamble will end. The stakes are global, and the outcome will shape the world for years to come. Trump's tariffs mark a turning point in U.S. economic policy, a bold bet to rewrite the rules of global trade. The risks are huge: higher prices, angry allies, and a world on the brink of economic conflict. Supporters see a chance to revive American industry and restore lost jobs. Critics fear a costly mistake that could isolate the U.S. and trigger a global downturn. The world is watching as America gambles its economic future on confrontation, not cooperation. Will this be remembered as a masterstroke or a miscalculation? Only time will tell.